everybody, and welcome to Passport to Design. This is the show where we talk about everything international design business. I'm your host, Christina Richardson, and I was born in the northern part of Sweden a very, very long time ago. And I have a past as a construction and mechanical engineer, and I did it in my 40s. I switched careers, and now I run an international design business. And I'm here to show you that if you want to work remotely or even internationally, it can be done. And also that the road to designhood can look very different for different people. So if you want it, it's doable and it can happen. Let's get started. Today's guests, oh my gosh. She was recently featured in Architectural Digest as one of 21 Black women changing the design and architecture space of today, which is huge. And listen to this. When she was young, she had unlimited access to Universal Studios, and she says she was born a designer, and she actually forced her parents to go to the bathrooms at restaurants just so that she could check them out, like the design. She's been moving back and forth between LA and New York, and she's been working with projects in Miami, DC, LA, and all around the New York area. Jade McNeil, welcome to Passport to Design.
Thank you, Christina. That was such a great introduction. I love it.
Yeah, oh my gosh, look at you, you gorgeous woman. How are you today?
I'm doing great. The sun is shining and we're having a beautiful day. And I'm excited for this conversation that we're going to have.
Me too. Me too. How's your week coming along so far?
You know, we're in spring, so I don't have to tell you in interior design, spring is like high season for projects. So we're busy here working on projects. We're in full swing of everything. We have projects in sort of every phase, beginning, middle, and construction. So we're busy working on projects, which is great. We're happy to do so.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, and also I'm just happy spring is here.
I know.
Even though this is busy season for us. So so Jade, tell us a little bit about your background. I mean, I just want to know how you became this brilliant design genius. Tell us a little bit more.
So, I mean, you gave a little bit in the introduction, but it's how I even got into it. I can't really pinpoint. I can just say that I kind of like fell into it as a kid growing up. I kind of had this obsession with the interiors. And, like you said, I would ask my parents to take me to the bathroom at restaurants. We'd be just driving through neighborhoods. I'd be like, oh, I wonder what that house looks like on the inside. And like playing with my Barbies, I would spend more time like setting up their homes and actually playing with the dolls. So I always did have this infatuation with interior design, but growing up, I didn't really know any designers. I didn't know anyone who used designers. And, maybe on the off chance that I did, there was no one that I saw that looked like me who was doing anything close to design, even real estate. And so it wasn't something that I thought of. So I actually, when I went to college, I studied sociology. And after I studied that, I just, again, my obsession and infatuation with interior design was just pulling me and drawing me. So I ended up going back to school. I went to UCLA and studied interior architecture. And that really changed my life. I knew from like the first week of classes when I started there, I was like, this is where I'm meant to be. I finally feel like I'm at home, like I'm with my people, like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing and what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was in LA. And after after I finished school and got my degree, I started working at a commercial firm where we were designing office buildings. So we were doing like corridors, lobbies, elevators, public restrooms. And I quickly learned that that was not for me. That was not why I got into interior design.
Yeah.
So I left LA at that point and I went to New York, which is where I am now. And I actually started working at, excuse me, a staging firm. So that was really an important point in my career early on, because although I also quickly learned that staging was not for me, I didn't like the fast pacedness of it. I did learn a lot in a short time. So when you're doing staging, right, everything happens in like 2, 3 weeks. You're coming up with the design, the concept, you're installing, you're painting, you're doing everything in a short amount of time. So I really was able to, in real time, learn about the importance of scale and balance and harmony and putting textures and colors together. And
Yeah.
that was something that you just can't learn in school because there's no capacity for that. You have to learn that hands-on in real life. And so I, let it be known that I heard that there was an interior design department in the staging firm. And so I asked if I could switch over and they said, sure, it's new. We're just kind of trying it out. So I was able to get into interior design and really help to grow and mold that department. And I was there for 5 years and it was, a great time of my career and my life.
Yeah. So, and when did you go off on your own? Because I know you have your own business at this point.
Yeah. So now I have my own business, Jade McNeil Interiors. And I started my business. I was at the other firm for about 5 years. So in 2020 is when I started my business.
Oh my gosh,
COVID.
right when
So
COVID hit.
yeah, so I mean, I don't have to tell you, during COVID, the interior design industry was booming, right?
Yeah.
Everyone was home, they weren't spending a ton of money going out and traveling, and they were just like sitting on their uncomfortable sofa and staring at their blank walls and thinking of all the projects that they never got around to.
Yes.
So it was a great time for me to venture off on my own and start my own business. It also, I feel like, helped me create my own job security because, big firms like where I was were, laying off people and,
Yeah.
temporarily, even if. So I felt like I just had a great network around me that I was able to, and fortunate enough to get projects pretty quickly.
Oh, oh, that's
when I
great.
started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I know from starting my own business, like it takes a while before you realize, like, holy moly, this is really, it's happening. It's taking off. I'm doing this. Like, when did you realize, like you started 2020, when did you actually realize, like, huh, I have my own business?
It's me doing it. Yeah. When did I realize? Maybe it took a little while. I think it was about a year in because so when I first started, I had been doing interior design at that point for like 5, 6 years. So I felt like I knew design pretty well and I was comfortable with running projects, running my own projects. That's what I had been doing before. But the business side was something that was foreign to me, and actually running a business. And I was like, I really want to make sure that I'm setting myself up for success, that I'm like taking this seriously. So I went and got myself a business coach. That was probably the best decision that I could have made in the beginning. And I know that for a lot of people who are just starting out with their own businesses, it's hard to, think of paying a chunk of money for a big service like that. But to me, that was invaluable because I learned so many skills that would have taken me so much longer to either get, or I would have had to just learn from the mistakes that I was making that I didn't know any better at the time. So
Yeah.
I would say probably took about a year for me to, between like 6 months to a year, for me to really feel like, okay, like this is me and my business. Like we're here to stay. I'm doing
Yep.
this.
I am an interior designer. I have my own
Oh,
business. Yeah, yeah. It actually, I remember the first time I said it and actually believed it myself. But so do you, so one of the really big takeaways for anyone watching this, I mean, we have a huge audience with up and coming designers, students, and I know they don't teach the business side of interior design at the schools, is bring in a business coach if you're starting your own business. That's a solid thing to think about, right? Piece of
yeah,
advice.
that was big for me in starting. I knew that I didn't even really know many entrepreneurs or,
Oh,
people in my network, in my family that I felt comfortable enough to talk to and say like, hey, these are the things that I need help with. These are the things that I don't know. I know what I know and I know what I don't know.
mm,
I think in that there's a lot of strength in saying, hey, I need help with this. Let me go seek someone out to help me with that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And just get, contracts in order and all that it's tough if you haven't done it before. So
Yeah. I mean, you have to file for your business, registering it, getting all of your documents in order, like you said, contracts and all of those things, and making sure that you have like a good process.
that's so important.
Think about
So
marketing. There's so many things that you have to think about that when you're working for someone else, you don't think about. You're just there showing up and you're doing, your project that's sitting right in front of you, and that's what you're focused on. And then when you open your own business, you're like, oh, there's so many other things here, so many other balls here that I'm juggling.
I'm the IT department now and the PR
Yeah,
department and bookkeeping. Yes. Yeah.
right.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. So that's a solid piece of advice for everybody watching. On another note, congratulations on the feature in AD. I mean, being selected as a Black designer, changing the design and architecture world it's huge. So you said you grew up and you didn't really have any Black design role models. Have that changed over time?
You
Do
know,
you have one now? That's my question.
I have a lot now. I have made it a point to, specifically when I went off and started my own business, really made it a point to make friends with a lot of my interior design peers, whether they're Black, white, or, any race, any cultural background.
Yeah.
I think that's really important, especially as an entrepreneur, because as you know, it can get lonely when you go from working with people to working by yourself and being the one thing for everything. And so I really made it a point for myself to get to know all these people that I was admiring their work and reach out to them, whether they got back to me or not,
Mm,
going to events and meeting people and just staying in contact with them and cheering everybody on and talking about, problems that we might have that are in common
mm.
and our triumphs.
Yes. Yeah, that is super. That's how we met, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
we met at an event.
yes, yes. And it's also a solid piece of advice to get yourself into this community of designers because it's a super friendly, actually super friendly environment and so encouraging. Um, I when I started out, I heard so much about like the design world being so competitive and so I was almost a bit afraid to start reaching out, but I found out it was maybe the opposite. Feels like, do you have the
Yeah,
same
there's
experience?
this thing of like community over competition that I feel
Yeah.
with all of my design friends and peers. And it's just, everyone cheering everyone else on. There's
Yep.
this quote that I love, and I'm going to butcher the quote, but it goes something like, there's plenty of bread options for everyone. So like when you're in the supermarket and you go down the bread aisle and you see there's like, 20 different brands and 50 different flavors, and they all have a spot on the shelf because one person might like whole grain, the other person might like sourdough. And, even in sourdough, there's different brands. So that is the mentality that I like to take, especially with interior design and meeting people.
100%, because I feel like the client choose me, and I don't need to sell because it's art, right? So it's hard to sell.
Yeah.
So for all of our Black, Indigenous, people of color audience out there who just might be starting out right now, in this still very, very white business, do you have any advice or encouraging words, especially for them?
I would say for specifically for people of color who are looking to get into this business, uh don't let the fact that it's still a majority white industry deter you or kind of scare you away, because like I said, there's room for everyone. I think it's really important to study, whether that's going to school or, study own, keeping up with trends and what is the new technology that's out there around interior design and materials, and really learning the language and knowing the skills, I think is really important, because one thing that has really helped me in the design industry as a woman of color is, like I said, knowing what I know,
Yeah.
right? I went into the room, and I think more so when I was like first starting out, I would definitely get that like look of like concern or like interest, like who is this woman, what's she doing here? She's supposed to be the designer, but what is her background, what are her skills? And I'm the type of person that I have a lot to say, I have an opinion, I have a lot of questions, so I'm just going to come out the bat and just start talking. And I think that has really helped people to kind of like gain my trust in the beginning, and like kind of skip the vetting process, and they can see that I know what I'm talking about and I know what I'm doing, and that I'm here to stay.
You're here
So
to
that would be
stay.
nice. Yeah, it's just,
Sure.
study and try to get in where you can and learn as much as you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Good advice. Good advice. So in this show, we talk a lot about working remotely, working internationally. Do you work a lot remotely, or do you prefer to travel to your projects, or is it a mix?
So most of my projects are local, but I have worked on remote projects. With remote projects, I think there's a difference between if we're talking about like remote for like e-design and remote for like I'm your designer, but I'm still hands-on. I'm still going to come and see the space and the project in person. And so I'm not a fan of e-design for myself personally. It's a personal choice. So I do work remotely in the sense that, I have projects going on in other states and other um, parts of the country where I will travel periodically to, first see the project and check in and, make sure everything's going how it's supposed to, in that sense.
Okay. Yeah. So and in between the visits, you do FaceTimes and
Yeah,
like,
I do
yeah.
times and Zooms, and we're mailing materials and going over proposals online and together. And it really works out well. I think
Yeah.
definitely COVID shaped a lot of that, in everyone just being more comfortable with having meetings online and on camera. and not having to have everything so much in person and so face to face.
Yeah, I agree. And I do a lot of remote work, and I'm the same as you. I travel first to have a look at the project most often. Sometimes I even don't do that, but and then we do most of the bulk of the work with uh, design boards, digital design boards. We send materials back and forth, and and I honestly do feel like I sometimes send all the tiles and floors and everything in a package to my clients. And I think that works really great, because then they don't have to run around in the tile stores and, get confused and all that. So it
Yeah.
actually
I like
works
that
out.
too. And then they're not also like getting distracted and looking at everything.
Exactly. Because that's the problem nowadays. It's not the lack of
Yeah, it's
product,
like,
it's too much.
know that we were talking about this white subway tile, but I found this other cement tile with all this pattern on it, and I'm like, too much in the wrong direction.
Exactly. Yeah. So I find it really handy, actually. So do you, what is, would you say, your best advice if someone wants to really start working remotely? Like, what's the one thing that you think you need to have in place for that?
I would say if you want to work remotely, definitely have your process in place. I think that's really important um, to have, how are you going to work and have that framework out and make sure that you're communicating that very clearly to your client and to your contractor, because they also need to know what's expected
Yeah.
of, of you and what you're expecting of them.
Good advice. That's We've got so much great advice from you today.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So, we're actually closing up towards the end, and I have this segment called Three Quick Ones.
Okay.
And yeah, so just answer from the top of your head. We're not going to hold anything against you, or maybe we will. We'll see. But I just want to know, first of all, favorite interior designer apart from you and I, of course.
Oh my God. My favorite interior designer is still, she is the person who I was admiring before I went to school, while I was in school. Our styles are not the same at all, but I really admire Kelly Worsler. Everything that
Oh,
she does is just gorgeous.
she is one of a kind.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I totally agree. I can see why. Um, okay, and then biggest no-no biggest no-no when it comes to interior design.
Biggest no-no. Um, Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. There's so many no's. I would say the first thing that comes to mind is having a rug that's too small for the space, making sure that that is like proportioned properly, that your furniture is able to sit on it comfortably, and that you still have, whatever walking space you need.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And that's very common. You see
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know people who like I'll go to their houses before we start working, or friends will be like, "Oh my God, I got this, look, what do you think?" And I'm like, "It's too small."
Gorgeous, but too tiny. Hmm.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a whole episode on just how to
How
relay
to
those
scale.
truths to clients. Yeah. Okay. And the last question is your standard Starbucks order.
Oh, I'm a matcha girl.
You are?
I love matcha. I drink it pretty much every day.
Nice. So that's, you don't drink coffee at all?
I will drink coffee, but my go-to is matcha.
Nice. My go-to is Earl Grey tea with a
Mm,
splash of milk.
I love
Okay, thank you so much, Jade. I honestly,
this.
I
Yeah,
get
this
so
is great.
inspired.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I mean, I don't know, but you seem to have this amazing determination, and I just know that we will see so much more of you in the years to come. No, I'm not second guessing that for a second.
That means so much to hear you say that. I really appreciate that.
So where can our listeners follow you on social media?
Okay, so I'm on Instagram, which is Jade McNeil Interiors, or they can go to my website, which is just jademcneil.com.
Okay, and we'll post it down here. And for all of you watching, if you have any questions or comments, or you can DM me if you even if you want to be on the show, you can DM me on Instagram at Christina Richardson Interiors. Thank you so much, Jade. It's been a pleasure.
It's been so much fun. I love it.
Yes, yes. And thank you for all of you watching. I hope you got some great advice. I know you did. And I also hope that you feel super inspired. Bye.
Bye.
Protect your business. You've worked hard to build it. DSA Insure. Insurance for interior designers.